Okay, I'm getting ready to record a video on the 144 aspects, but before I do, if you haven't visited my website at electricmonastery.com, you should definitely go. Here I have all kinds of files, basically including my astro research, anything that you have on the website here on YouTube, you can basically find there, as well as some support files for my 4 books in the Full Spectrum Astrology series. Today I'm going to be going over this particular post here, the 144 table asteroid style, because there's a version of the 144 aspects in my book, well, all 144 aspects, and but there's a newer version that doesn't exist in any of the books because it's based on stats that I did in Laurentia. So I'm going to go ahead and show you these. This is the table from chapter 33 of my 3rd book, and it basically gives you an outline of what all these aspects are. Now, if you're a seasoned veteran in astrology and you really haven't looked at some of the more advanced stuff that's new with the research, then you'll find that some of these aspects, actually almost all of them, aren't really common. So you know about the conjunct and the opposition and the trine here, and there's also a square which shows how you want and all of that other stuff. But I know when I was studying astrology I had some trouble looking up the septile or the undecile. Well, basically in my books I talk about all of these advanced divisions of the circle, and I use statistics to determine what these things did. And so I looked up a whole bunch of planets that were in trine, for example, and I asked myself, just going over the data, what did all of the different people with their charts have in common with those traits that popped up in trine? And it showed that whenever they were using those planet pairs, they were basically airing their inner thoughts or their opinions. Now, all of that was based on people's charts, but there's another way to actually determine what each of these 144 aspects does. By the way, the majors, the ones that we're used to, like the quintile and the sextile and all of that, are all on the first line of this table. But those are basically divisions of the circle into 12. And once you define the circle as being units of 12 that can be broken into 12 again, then you get 144th of a circle, and all of these other aspects start to get defined. So for example, you might have some planets that are 9 degrees apart, and if they're exactly 9 degrees apart, then that is 360 divided by 9, which is 1/40th of a circle, and that would give you the 40 right here, where you're missed on duty. And I call that a level 4 square, based on some stuff that you can look up in the book, also known as a Sagittarius square. So in my 3rd book I will tend to say a level 4 square is what that is, but in my 4th book I tell you it's a Sagittarius square because it's actually easier to read that way. It shows where you're missed on duty. So for example, if you had your sun and moon 9 degrees apart, that's 1/40th of a circle, it shows that your contentment would show up when people miss you, or something like that. Now, like I said, this is all based on stats from the charts themselves. But recently, actually a couple of months ago, I did some research on the asteroids, because the asteroids act like little mini rulers. So for example, if you say the sun is the ruler of Leo, or the moon is the ruler of Cancer, that's fine for the majors, for this first line here, but it doesn't tell you anything about that first 1/12 of Leo, or that third 1/12 of Virgo, or anything like that. And actually, you can have asteroids that kind of line up with all those characters. So this newer version of the chart, which I think is actually slightly more interesting, slightly simpler as well, is based on asteroids. And so what I did is I took my stats, which were done in the 4th book, 144, and I said, okay, here are all the asteroids that span 27 little mini duodecanates in space. And I did some math on it, and I found that all those asteroids tended to indicate brilliance in some way. And the ones that tended to span 40 different levels of astronomical units, when you take the log and all that other stuff, gave you encapsulation. And so, whereas this table says that if your sun and moon are 9 degrees apart, then you tend to be self-contented based on where you're missed. This table says you tend to be self-contented when the memory of you encapsulates somebody's thoughts. Amazingly, or maybe not quite amazingly, because there is kind of a statistical science to this, these translations of things actually support these translations of things very strongly. I'd say that maybe there were about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 of them out of all 144 where you were just like, where did that come from? But in most cases, the asteroid clustering version of all this stuff and the statistical version of all this stuff tended to line up pretty strongly. So you can use this in order to do things like your life path table. I'm going to do a video shortly on the life path table, but basically this is what you get. If you go to electricmonastery.com, you can get this file, and because I'm not posting it on YouTube here, but yeah, just go ahead and download it, and finally you can fill out all of the empty holes in your astrology chart. Be sure to check out my 3rd and 4th books, all 144 aspects, and Laurentia, to get more details on how this stuff works. There's a lot of details with it, and I will see you next time.